I don't think he needs to be so aggressive. I think he was probably going in to try and see if he could pick off another siege tank of his opponents, and unfortunately wasn't able to at that stage. I think he would have been handy. Jaedong's now got his defilers enough. Iris has got his science vessel up, but he doesn't have any siege tank. So Iris pushing out with the American, but he's a little bit careless there. Despite having the science vessel, he loses a couple of units. He only has the one siege tank, so it's not going to be easy for him to push forward. And Jaedong basically is just going to keep trying to buy himself some time and keep Iris occupied. And that's one of the great things about Python, because it's such a large map. There's so much room for flanking and side maneuvers that a good Zerg player can easily try and delay an opponent simply by flanking. And once again, Jaedong venturing in with the lurkers, and you can see Jaedong pulling the Zerglings and the Scourges back in time. A lesser Zerg player would probably have lost a few of his Scourges and his Zerglings just to those Medic and Marines. So both players microing excellently. The point I keep trying to make, that I keep not getting the chance to make, is that the only downside to this matchup is that Iris isn't at his peak right now, as he was in those two epic series versus Savior. The best of 5 semifinals and then the best of 3 quarterfinals. And Iris now setting up C. Jaedong is once again trying to get a flank, and Jaedong has done a good job of delaying Iris, because I'd say he's almost ready to get those defilers in play. Iris hasn't built up a significant science vessel fleet here yet so far, and it's going to be critical for Jaedong, and Jaedong has got those defilers out. It's going to be critical for Jaedong to keep that science vessel count low. We know how vital that is in matchups like this. We also had an epic final between GG Play and Iris on this very map on Python, and the deciding game was an absolute scorcher on this map, and so I think Iris is probably the one with the most to prove here, never mind wanting to take the opening gambit, the opening points for his team. So Iris has just set himself up in the middle of the map while he reinforces himself with some Medic and Marines. Jaedong content to leave him there, and Iris really, and Jaedong looks like he's going to go in now, and Iris has got his tanks in a staggered position. Those two tanks are undefended, so they're going to get taken out comfortably by Jaedong, and that looks like he picked up a science vessel there as well. Actually, there was just a siege tank going on, and Jaedong laying the plague, laying the storm, trying to take that science vessel out, unable to. And Jaedong's left 2 lurkers unburrowed at his choke to his third gas, and he's now bringing them up the ramp. I don't know if he's going to have time to burrow them in order to stop those Marines. The Marines are streaming through. Jaedong manages to get a swarm over those 2 lurkers, but most of the Marines are still through. Jaedong luckily does have a sunken there, and those Marines don't have a medic support, so I think Jaedong's going to be okay and able to defend that. It was wise of him to have that sunken, but it was careless of him to leave those 2 lurkers there unburrowed at the choke to the natural of that 6 o'clock expansion. But Jaedong has now mopped up Iris' forces, and Jaedong has also cleared away Iris' forces from the middle of the map, and you've got to feel that Jaedong is the one who has the advantage here. He's in control. He was able to wipe out those siege tanks of Iris fairly comfortably. Iris now bringing out the vultures, and this is again something you don't see Terran players, in my view, do often enough, because it can be a real pain for the Zerg player with those spider mines laid out all over the map. It can be a real pain for the Zerg players with his wandering Zerglings and lurkers wandering around the map, running into them and being taken out, and can really help tilt the balance. And now Iris putting down a second starport, feeling that he probably needs to pump out more science vessels to cope with Jaedong's huge macro. And really, I think we're seeing the effect of what we're seeing here is Jaedong being able to keep Iris spin back, and Jaedong once again venturing in with the Zergling strategy, and brilliant by Jaedong. Zergling with the spider mine takes out about 4 vultures, and Jaedong just trying to venture forth and trying to take out those pick off those science vessels. He needs to keep Iris' science vessel count low, or he's going to be in trouble. Iris now has finally discovered that expansion and finally found that expansion at the 6 o'clock position, and is sending out his main force to try and take it, since it is the least well defended. Jaedong has got a decent sized force down on the ground there, and he's gonna be able to defend this quite comfortably. And Iris just doesn't have enough science vessels built up at this point in time, and I think it all comes down to Jaedong keeping Iris in his base, and Jaedong with a plague catching a science vessel as well as a group of Marines, and Jaedong has got a group trying to cut off Iris' retreat, forcing Iris into the left-hand side of the map, into the 9 o'clock position, and Iris now once again spraying those vulture mines, and I think those vulture mines might have a crucial part to play in this game. Jaedong once again sending Zerglings to try and take out some of those spider mines, and Jaedong just losing a group of Zerglings there that was supposed to be supporting his lurkers, and Iris doing a great job of fighting a running battle here. He's doing what I would call a defensive depth strategy by moving his units back and not really fighting Jaedong, because that's the problem when you're fighting with lurkers and Zerglings. You need the opponent to be stationary. If the opponent is constantly in the move, it can be difficult. So Iris is doing a great job of whittling down Jaedong's forces while keeping his own up to the maximum. Jaedong has now got that Ultralisk covered up. I do feel he's bought himself enough time, but critically he has yet to kill a science vessel, and he really needs to start using those Scourges more judiciously. And I have to feel if he maybe had a couple of Mutilis there, and now Iris just going in trying to pick up those lurkers. He's managed to kill 1 lurkers with a good spread of his Medic and Marines, and Jaedong has put another expansion on. Jaedong this time coming in with the Scourges, forcing those science vessels back. But Jaedong has done a good job. Jaedong has now taken the natural of the 6 o'clock expo as well. I think Iris might be trying to take the expo at the 11 o'clock position. I think Iris needs to try and get another expo down sooner rather than later, or he will find that Jaedong is running away economically with this game. And Jaedong continues to stay ahead of Iris, I feel. And Jaedong now is doing the smart thing. He's sending single groups of single Zerglings out to try and catch those spider mines so that his troops don't run into them. I think Iris had done a decent job of whittling down Jaedong's forces without losing too many of his own. But I think Jaedong seems to be would probably be content with the amount of units he's lost, as opposed to the amount of units Iris has killed, and also the fact that he's continued to improve his situation in the macro of the game, continued to expand and have more bases, continued to tech and upgrade his units as well. And it does look like he has got upgraded Carapace level 1. And Iris just seems to be content to let Jaedong do this. He seems to be trying to break through a knot. He produced siege tanks and then decided to stop making more siege tanks. He built 2 siege tanks initially. I feel that perhaps Iris should have tried to be more committed. Either he should have gone for a big siege tank push, or he should play a bio. I guess he decided to go for a siege tank push initially, but Jaedong caught his 2 siege tanks in the middle of the map off guard. And Jaedong just trying to get those 3. He needs to morph those creep colonies out, because Iris is coming in. Those 3 creep colonies are morphed. And Jaedong, Iris has indeed taken that 11 o'clock expansion, and he's now going to come in and try and take that in that expansion. And Iris trying to flank those lurkers, trying to give himself maximum spread on those lurkers. Great micro by Iris. Jaedong coming in with the scourges, and this is careless by Jaedong. He's lost those scourges here. Looks like he was probably microing at the 11 o'clock position, and he might be in a little bit of trouble here, but those Sunkens pop just in time. Zerglings arrive to mop up the rest of those forces, so Jaedong once again successfully defends. He's got a spore colony up as well, interestingly enough. This is interesting to see a spore colony for a Zerg player versus a Charon player late game like that, to say the least. And Jaedong just trying to catch those medics off, doesn't want Iris to take them back to his main forces and replenish his forces with them. It looks like most of those medics are going to get taken out by Jaedong's falling forces, and I feel that Jaedong is taking a firm lead in this game, guys. I feel Jaedong is in a very strong position, but he should not allow Iris to come back in this game. Iris has now produced a siege tank again. I think the fact that Jaedong took those 2 siege tanks out earlier on when Iris was trying to push before, just as Jaedong was getting his defilers up and running, I think that was what then made Iris change his mind and switch fully to a more bio strategy. And Jaedong once again with the straggling Zerglings around the map. The one thing I have to say, the one negative in Jaedong's play, only minor negative so far. And again, great play by Jaedong, catching a handful of science vessels and versus medic and marines, streaming in now with the Zerglings, trying to use those scourges to maximum defend. Iris obviously doing a great job of defending, but this time Jaedong manages to take out 4 science vessels. Looks like he's going to pick off another one. 4 or 5 science vessels gets taken out of Iris' forces, as well as a significant number of his ground troops. I think Jaedong will be very happy with that exchange. So far, as I was saying, the only negative was that Jaedong hasn't made the most judicious use of his scourges. He has lost scourges from time to time against Iris, and Jaedong is now taking the expansion at the 5 o'clock position as well. Iris decided to take the expansion at the 9 o'clock position. While I would say that Jaedong has a slight advantage, and Jaedong now with Zerglings mopping up that medic and marine force, Iris trying to do a good job of microing them, but really Jaedong looks like he's going to get another plague off, and he actually almost got the plague off on the science vessels, but managed to miss it. Iris with his medic and marines coming in to whop, along with a bunch of firebats coming to mop up the rest of Jaedong's force. And I really feel, by this stage Jaedong should have made the switch to Ultralisk, but I think he fears those spider mines in the middle of the map, and maybe that's why he's not made the switch to Ultralisk, because he fears that those spider mines could do significant damage to them, and that's why he's probably stuck to Lurkers and Zerglings. And Iris now going in for that expansion to the 5 o'clock position. There is no Nidus up there. Jaedong doesn't have any defenses in place, and if Iris can take it down, this will help him back to level the momentum of the game. As I said, if I had to call it right now, I would have to say Jaedong has a slight advantage in momentum, and I would have to say he would be feeling more comfortable in the position he is in the game. And Jaedong has now finally made that switch to Ultralisk. He has got those Ultralisks up and running, and I have to feel that with continued pressure, Jaedong is going to be able to take this game. The question of the Mutalisk harass still lingers in my mind on how good or effective it was, and Iris has got a group of Marines waiting up at the top of the ramp, so Jaedong's going to be aware of that expansion now, if he wasn't already. Jaedong once again coming in, trying to catch those science vessels off guard, and getting a little bit careless with his scourges. Managed to lose a few of them, but he managed to pick up at least one more science vessel. Excuse me. The key here, obviously, for Jaedong is absolutely keeping that science vessel count low, because those science vessels will just tear through his Ultralisks and his defilers, and I think Jaedong has done a decent enough job, though not as good as Savior had done at his best, but he has kept Iris' science vessel count to a reasonable amount. At the same time, he is allowing Iris to macro across the map and spread himself, and not really putting himself in a winning or dominating position. Once again, Jaedong is going to try and catch that medic group off guard, and this is the problem with Jaedong. I've seen this time and time again. He brings in a group of ground forces and polishes off Iris' ground units, but doesn't have scourges to accompany them when he does. Other times he brings in his ground forces, loses the ground battle, and then the scourges arrive to be mopped up. And you see it again here. The scourges didn't arrive when he was actually fighting those medic and marines, and when the science vessels were suspended completely vulnerable in the air above Jaedong's forces, and Jaedong would have been able to take out all of Iris' science vessels had he timed his scourges correctly. And those are one of the things that made Savior such an exceptional player, and one of the things that Jaedong has displayed in several of his games, though he does not seem to be getting the nail on the head in that respect in this game, is the issue of timing your attacks, and that is one of the most difficult skills for a Zerg player to do well, to time your attacks so that your ground forces and air forces arrive at the same time and hit simultaneously to do maximum damage to your opponent. Iris obviously is doing a good job of targeting those scourges, of keeping his science vessels back and not letting them get taken out by the scourges. And once again, Iris having a second group, and look at that brilliance by Iris, having a second group of medic and marines in the rear to defend his science vessels, while his front group fended off those ultras, and Jaedong basically trying to push forward his ground forces by cover for his Scourges to take out those science vessels. Unfortunately, not able to do that successfully on this occasion. And you have to wonder, if he hadn't sacrificed those Mutalisks as early as he did, maybe he could have used them as cover.